Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the President announced his plans to designate, once again, over 300,000 acres this time of mountains, meadows, and other areas that stretch over 100 miles in Northern California, including parts of Yolo, Solano, Napa, Lake, Mendocino, Glen, and Colusa Counties, as a monument. This designation now marks the 19th time this President has created or expanded since taking office, resulting in over 260 million acres of designated lands and waters in monuments or wilderness areas. This move actually exemplifies the President's complete disregard for the legislative process, his lack of hesitance on using every single political tool to carry out an even more of executive power grabs. Indeed, the one in Snow Mountain was a bipartisan effort underway with legislators working on how that might become a designated area. Instead, that has now been usurped by one more round of executive power, kind of like we've seen recently with the Supreme Court exercising its power, usurping the legislative process where we, the legislators, are subject directly to we, the people. Using the Antiquities Act as justification to designate over 1/3 of a million acres in my state overnight is not only a serious abuse of power, it is a serious representation of the intent of the law itself. This law, the purpose of this law, which was enacted after archaeologists years ago noticed small artifacts disappearing or ending up in private collections across different countries, was meant as an emergency option to curb looting in small archaeological sites in the Southwest. In short, it would seem like the simple text of the law actually directs the President to limit any designation to the smallest area compatible with proper care and management of the resource or the objects to be protected. Now, when you see 330,000 acres designated here or 700,000 designated in Nevada, or a few years ago when President Clinton declared 1 million acres in Utah, are we really protecting a particular area or zone, or is this a widespread power grab? Indeed, what are we protecting it from? Well, you'll hear from the left, from oil and gas development, or from timber, or from mining, or from all sorts of things that would be devastating to the environment. Well, have you noticed how hard it is to get a permit to do any one of those things by the time you get through the EPA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and the whole litany of others that are in the way of doing things that could be done with good environmental stewardship at the same time as developing the resources that the people in this country still need. They still need fuel, they still need oil, they still need gas, they still need paper products. Heaven knows we use enough paper products in this building. That we need to develop in this country. We do it more responsibly than anywhere else in the world. Yet these wilderness area designations, these monuments, they don't seek to really protect anything. They just make it off limits to all Americans. Even if you just want to go in for hiking or hunting or a little off-roading, and indeed those that would develop the resources. This is so absurd it even has made it difficult for fire suppression in our forested areas for our various fire agencies to go do the job they need to do, to have the roads in the area so they can attack the fires that are needed, and even worse so, as we're seeing what happened with the loss of life with illegal immigrants in this country, like Catherine Steinle in San Francisco. Illegal immigration, the effort to stop that at the border was made even more difficult, I believe, down in New Mexico when the President designated a bunch of the area along New Mexico as a monument, making it where the Border Control can't even patrol the areas because it's now an environmentally protected zone. That's ridiculous, and I think it's Americans, when they hear about this, say, what is going on? So this is, again, a power grab that is completely inappropriate. It bypasses the legislative process where the legislators are directly accountable to the people, and it's about time that we change the Antiquities Act, or at least we had somebody in the White House that knew the balance between designating just a small area that actually helps protect a resource, an archaeological site, versus thousands or millions of acres that makes it just off limits to the type of use the public needs and actually makes the asset a safer and healthier one, for example, with our forests, where we can do the work to keep them healthy. Local residents have very little input, if any, on a designation happening in their backyard. Is this clear? Is this a transparent process? No. It's power in Washington, once again, ruling over the people, ruling over the stakeholders in those communities that know best how to manage the resource, what that resource needs, and the local economy that could mean to that for whether it is hunting or fishing or hiking, off-roading, even a little gold mining. We can do these things. We know how to do them environmentally responsibly, and yet we get run over time and time and time again by left-leaning folks using the Antiquities Act as something for their environmental dreams. Mr. Speaker, I'm highly frustrated by this, and I hope the American public will get behind an effort to help us change the Antiquities Act and make it something that actually works for the American public and protects what needs protecting, not everything else. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired.